Hi, this is Joe again with another review. For the sake of this video, we're going to be discussing the 1988 film, the 1988 film, The Last Temptation of Christ, starring William Dafoe, Barbara Hershey, and also has Harvey Keitel in the film as well. But this film was, at the time, one of the most controversial, if not the most controversial film, pretty much for most of the 1980s. True came in 1988, but at the end, the second half of the 1980s, I should say, was the most controversial film, at least in the second half of the 80s. And definitely one of the most talked about movies of that year. I think it did get nominations for Oscars, but naturally, of course, there was also the same year that Rain Man came out, and Rain Man took a bunch of Oscars home. And that pretty much left the Last Temptation of Christ in the dust because of all the controversy over it. Like I said, William Dafoe in this film is the one who plays Jesus. Harvey Keitel plays Judas, and of course it's the guy who stabs Jesus in the back, literally. And Barbara Hershey plays Mary Magdalene, and that's where the controversy comes in. Because this film is not, or the story, The Last Temptation of Christ, is not based on any particular gospel or any particular Jesus theory about Jesus, like the Da Vinci Code was. It was based on theories and really conspiracy theory on Jesus' life. They actually had a bloodline, and even though the Da Vinci Code was written I think about 15 years later after this movie came out. It had, it does, Last Temptation of Christ does play with the fact that Jesus actually married Mary Magdalene and had an affair with her, and that's where the controversy comes in. And of course, at that time, she was, of course, accused of being a prostitute and all that stuff. And until when the Da Vinci Code came out, that's what pretty much cleared, even though she was cleared of it, being labeled a prostitute, the Da Vinci Code pretty much clears her, even though it's a fictionalized version of the Jesus story. They pretty much convinced most people they gave Mary Magdalene a break and disavowed the whole prostitute thing. And so this movie, in a way, she wasn't really a prostitute in this film. Even though she was called a whore and all that stuff, that she had sex with a bunch of Romans, Jews, she had sex with anybody, any guy that she could get to have sex with, she would nail anything that moved. They do play with that theory in this movie, and Jesus was the one who forgives her, bosses her, and has an affair with her himself in this film. Of course, this film also deals with the crucifixion, and he offers to be killed. And, instead of being Judas stabbing Jesus in the back, which actually did happen, for what I understand, Jesus offered himself to be killed, and so I want you. And he says to Judas in a couple of scenes, I want you to be the one to do it. And that was Jesus' idea for Judas to stab him in the back, which of course was also one of the theories that was out there with the Bible, people who make up theories and stuff of the whole Jesus story. So what happened was he does get crucified, and what they don't do in the movie, and the Da Vinci Code does, and then say that Mary Magdalene. And it was a fact. Mary Magdalene was one of three women who discovered that Jesus came back from the dead after he was crucified. So they didn't even bring that. They didn't bring that up in this movie, but it was a fact. Mary Magdalene discovered Jesus being resurrected. So after he came back to life, he lived pretty much the rest of his life in pretty much obscurity, and then other people like Judas came, found him, and other disciples found Jesus living like a regular life, and like, what up? I mean, you were alive you were alive all this time, and living all this time. I mean, what the hell? And that's pretty much how the movie ends, and like it took 2 hours and 45 minutes to get to that. I mean, this movie was like a half hour shorter, but I mean, this movie just dragged. And and part of the movie that I had a problem with, and they actually brought this, and Judas actually brings this up in the movie, and some of the other disciples actually brought this up, and the fact is that Jesus kept changing his mind on what to do against the Romans. He says, let's attack them with swords. And the first he wanted to attack them with swords. Is, a second thought, that idea stinks. I want to go with this idea, with love. Let's attack Romans with love instead of swords and axes. I mean, like, and the other disciples were like, "What's this guy, crazy?" And that's how he acted. He acted crazy through this whole. Jesus acted crazy through this whole movie. He didn't know what the hell to do with himself. I mean, at least another depictions of Jesus. At least it's plausible. At least it makes sense. I haven't seen that many depictions of Jesus to tell you the truth, but at least none of them, all of them, from my understanding, for those other Bible movies, at least they all make sense. They're all plausible. It's not. It's like more accurate with what the Bible stories. This thing, forget. It went completely the other way, and it's like Jesus didn't know what the hell to do with himself, and so he got in the field with Mary Magdalene and brought that in there, and then after he was crucified, he finds out Mary Magdalene died, which of course we all know that's not true because she went to France because she was pregnant by Jesus at the time of the crucifixion, according to the Da Vinci Code. She was pregnant at the time of the crucifixion with Jesus' baby, and leaves France because she knows that she will get killed if the Romans find out that Jesus has a baby, and will get killed. So she leaves. Meanwhile, they find out that she dies. And Jesus finds out she dies. He goes all bummed out that she's dead. Well, this one's dead. That one's dead, and he decided to give up after he came back from the dead, like 3 days later. I mean, come on. I mean, this is what people, like, the Catholic Church were upset of this thing. I mean, more upset about paying money for a 2 hour 44-minute movie or 2 hour 45-minute film that went out way too long and was really ridiculous. I mean, I couldn't believe that actor was halfway interested in watching this thing because of the controversy of the film. But I thought the movie sucks. I mean, the Da Vinci Code was 10 times better than the movie than this thing was. The only thing that we got in real notoriety is because Martin Scorsese directed this movie. But I think William Dafoe does give a good performance, even though it was like a manic depressive Jesus in this thing. He gave a good performance. I thought Barbara Hershey was good, and you do see her naked in this movie, which is not a bad thing, especially at that time. But I thought Harvey Keitel also did a good job. I didn't even recognize it was Harvey Keitel playing Judas. But other than those three characters, the rest of the movie, and all the other characters, they didn't do anything for me in this movie. They did nothing. I mean, this movie, I'm not Catholic or Christian or anything like that. But this movie did absolutely nothing for me. Brings up nothing new to the table. I mean, it's really garbage. This movie, despite the controversy, it was a terrible film. And there's nothing more I can say about Last Temptation of Christ other than there's my review of The Last Temptation of Christ. Please click on the video. Please rate it. Please subscribe to my channel. Please forward this video to your Facebook pages. You can check out all my reviews not only on my YouTube channel but at rowdyc.com or wdwhite.com. Homepage and reviewer Chris Lee Moore, and please check out all of his videos on his website. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.